All right, so we are ready to continue on with our cycle build. Now, what should be next in this video would be the legs, but before we start the legs, we need to finish the head. When I left off here, I didn't have the material for the visor, and I do now. I got some translucent blue, and I printed a couple different ones here. I was hoping for more translucent. This one, I mean, it is, I don't know if you can see that through there, it is translucent-ish. I mean, you get a light behind it, you can definitely see. But with this over the face, you can't see through that. But it's still, it's still obvious that it's slightly translucent. You just can't see the face, which isn't that big of a deal given the good job I did on the face. So I printed this again with less layers, and I got this, which is obviously much more translucent, much more flexible. But even that, you still can't make out the face, but it's still more obvious that it's translucent. But the problem with this is printing, it didn't work out so well on the top. It was just too thin. So, and it was just falling apart. So can't really use that one. I went online and I looked at some images of this character, and you look at 10 images, and they're all different. Some of them have a blue shield, some have green, some are perfectly clear, some you can't see through at all, like it's kind of mirrored. Some you can partially see through. So I kind of like, I mean, this is a nice color. I like this. It's just that it wasn't as see-through as I had wanted, but after looking at images of the actual character, it doesn't bother me anymore. I kind of like it because, like I said, a lot of the images you couldn't see through it at all. So I kind of like the look of that. And when it's down, I like it. I'm going to leave it just like this. When you print this, you will need to print it with supports. It does print this way, on the bed this way. And the support material was just under like that. That's all it needed right there. And that just snapped off fairly easily. So that's all the support you need. You might be able to print it, this way. But that might mess up where the support rests here. That might mess it up here, and I wanted that better. I don't know. So you could experiment with different ways of printing that, but I'm happy with this one. Now it does have a little bit of an edge, not really flashing, but a little bit of an edge around here that I need to clean up. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of go around with the blade here and clean that up a bit. I will also go along, I mentioned this last video, you just take a blade right on that seam, and you just kind of scrape it, and you just kind of scrape that seam down. Careful not to go over here and scratch that, but that'll clean up that seam, make that look a little bit nicer. And so I'll finish this, and I'll go around here off camera, and I'll get back to you, and we'll put all this together. All right, so I got that cleaned up pretty well, I think. So next step is to take these pieces and bond them on. You can see that goes on like that, if I can get my fingers to cooperate here. Like that. And as I mentioned the last video, I'm using this stuff. Sorry if that wasn't in the screen there, but so I'll just bond that on around here. Now you could use CA or any other type of adhesive you prefer. But the thing is, with super glue or CA, you're just kind of sticking it on. Now, granted, it does do it very well. It sticks it on very well. But this actually melts the plastic and fuses it together. So it's kind of like the difference between brazing or welding, I guess. So I'm going to use this because I have a lot of it. My bottle of CA is actually almost empty. So again, I'm going to, I guess, do this first one off camera because I'm going to have to hold that steady while I bond that one on. But I'm just going to put some of this along here because that's the only mating surface is right around here. So I'll do that and on both sides, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, so here's the head all bonded and clamped up. I'm just leaving the clamp on here until I know for a fact that is set properly. It's probably fine. I could probably take it off, but you know, I'll give it a little bit more time. And I'm really liking the way this thing came out here. See, the helmet can lift up a little bit and then flip all the way back, and then flip forward and down. I really like that. I think it came out pretty well. So I'm just going to put this to the side and until you know, until I'm sure that that's good. So again, that wraps up the step 1 right here. So that finishes last week's video. So now we're going to be doing steps 2 and 3. That's going to be legs. After I post this video, I will then put all of the files for these parts onto Thingiverse, and I'll also take a photo of this and put that on Thingiverse as well. So in case you need the instructions here, you can do that. So we'll start at the beginning here with the feet. Now this part right here, it's G28, looks like. I can't quite read that from here, but I did that as 2 pieces, and because I just thought that would be the best way to print it and get a finished piece. And after I printed this, I realized it didn't fit in the foot very well because I made it a little bit too thick here. So yours won't actually look exactly like this. It won't look exactly the way that picture is. Instead, it looks like, let me get the other pieces here. Looks like this, which is almost the same, almost. I just shortened that down a tiny bit. I don't even know if you can see it on camera here. I just shortened that down a tiny bit right there. That makes the end of that thinner, so it will fit into the foot better. So what we need to do here is, I need to find my, where'd I put my blade? All right. Yeah, you know, it'd be nice if I was more organized, wouldn't it? I just had it a few minutes ago. I don't know, I put it somewhere. So anyways, I'm gonna have to go through and clean up those edges and then bond those together and clamp them. Actually, I'll bond it first and clean the edges up after the fact. So you get some clamps. All right, work, and the solvent, and just real simple, put quite a bit on here. Now once it's all together, this will be kind of trapped in the foot. So, you know, CA would probably be perfectly fine with this. But, like I said, I prefer the solvent. And let me get another clamp on that end. So we'll let that set up. We also need to do little cross pieces here. And those, again, real simple. I did in 2 parts just because I thought it would print better than trying to print on a round surface. You'll get a little bit of a better result there. So again, same process here. And just stick those together. And again, these will also be really trapped. You could probably not even glue those together and it would still work fine. I'm not going to do that, but I think you get the idea. All right. So that's those 2. Next up, we need to start working on the foot and the heel. So we need the 2 feet pieces. And the heel piece. So that's the heel. Now it's the same shape either foot. So there's just one number for it. And these print this way on the bed. Obviously this one prints that way. And I did put infill in here. Now this one, I think it had like a 2.5, you could probably see the pattern in there, 2.5 millimeter spacing. I upped that to like a 10 millimeter spacing. On the part that's on the printer now that you might be able to hear in the background, I took it to like a 12 or 15. I think I went to 15 millimeter spacing. And that just reduces your print time. Now these feet pieces, they just kind of get bonded together this way. So the infill, you don't have to pop all of that out. You only need to remove enough around here to allow that piece to sit in there. And it didn't even infill all the way to the corner. I mean, I didn't even touch this yet. So basically, you just come in here and pop out a little bit of infill here. That. And it's been a little bit stubborn. Let me get so far with these parts, the infill has actually came out pretty decent. Of course, this one is kind of making a liar out of me, but most everything else has been coming out all right. Let's go in there and dig that out. Also, what I found is my favorite workshop tool, the butter knife. It's also very handy for getting in there and breaking up and pulling out infill parts. All right, and that's really good enough. Let me get just a little bit in there. All right, and that's really all you need. And I got that one as well, because again, when those go together, that first piece we glued together goes in here, and that gets completely covered by the next part of the leg that goes over it. So we should be good to go with that. One other thing that we will need for assembling this that I found out is a big sheet of 80 grit sandpaper. Actually, that's 50 grit or 80 grit. Before you bond large pieces like this together, what I found helpful for me anyways, is on a flat surface, just take your piece and just scuff it up a bit, and that'll make a nice flatter surface for those to bond together to. All right. We also need the two heel pieces. Those are right here, and of course those go together like that with that piece installed there. So let me give these a few minutes to properly set, and we'll get back and finish the feet and the heel. All right, so you can see how that goes in here, and it sits in here like that. Again, you can see that step here I had to put in because it was just too thick to sit in there. And then of course this just goes right over top of it. And this is it is a nice tight fit, which is good because I don't want this thing to be really floppy. You know, I want it to have a little bit of stiffness in its joints so it can, you know, hopefully support its own weight when it's all done. Because that's really going to suck if this thing just flops over. But so we'll have to see when it's done if this worked or if it was a complete failure. Because at this point, I still don't know. Just keep that in mind if you're printing along with me and following along with me. That there is a slight chance that this may not even work. Which again, I'll just apologize in advance if it actually comes to that. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll just bond those together. Also, keep in mind something that I have learned through this process so far. It is very difficult to take apart, to take a small part and measure it with a pair of Harbor Freight calipers and draft it out, 3D draft it out, and then blow it up 3 times bigger, and then expect everything to just fit perfectly. Some of these parts are my second or third or fourth print. Usually I get it by the second print. Now with the head everything came out first try. But with these, like, I had to redraw this piece twice. I had to redraw this piece like 3 or 4 times. These pieces were fine. But given, different printers theoretically would have different tolerances, I guess, maybe extruding more or less than others. If I get parts that just literally do not fit, then I will redraw and print, like this one. But if it's just tight enough that I need to just touch it with a little bit of sandpaper, I'm not going to redraw that. I'll leave it alone. If it's a little bit loose, to where maybe I can shim it with something, again, I'll just leave it alone. I'm only going to redraw parts if they physically do not fit. Now, I'm loading the STL files and the SketchUp files, so hopefully if any of you want to change or modify anything, please help yourself with that. For example, this is probably set good enough now. If you don't like my face, please redo it. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you redraw my face here. So that would be perfectly fine. And one other thing I've been thinking about. I've been struggling to decide whether I wanted to completely sand this smooth and paint it, or just leave it 3D printed. For now, I'm just leaving it 3D printed, because I kind of like just the plain 3D printed look. If I decide to do another one, then I will sand, smooth, and paint it to look much more screen accurate. And that way you wouldn't even be able to tell it's 3D printed at all. But anyways, that's my plans for now. So back to the foot here. I am going to do this again off camera, just because it is can be a little bit kind of tedious, time consuming, getting everything and lined up and squeezed together and letting it set. But those just get bonded on like this, and then I run that over the 50 grit sandpaper, and then that gets bonded on like that. All right, and I actually already have one done right here. So that one's a little bit looser, which hopefully is okay. You know, it's not going to be able to go that much because the rest of the leg goes over here is going to block it, so it's only going to be able to move a tiny bit. I did get a little bit of a gap here. That's not really squeezing together, so it does a little bit. So what I might do is put a little bit of solvent here, put a clamp back on that, try to get that back together here. All right, so there's the feet, and again, same thing with the heels. This needs just a little bit of sanding around the shafts here so that can squeeze together. Again, just a little bit of 50 grit sandpaper around the ends here, and then that will fit together very well, and that's what that one looks like here. All right, again, it's a little bit tight. I don't know if I can, got a little bit of a gap. I think I can squeeze that together too. So I'll put a little bit more solvent here and clamp, and I'll get this one done, these together, and I'll show you what they all look like when they're all done. All right, so we now have 2 feet and 2 heels, and view them there. And the way these work is that you print these, and this is what's on the printer right now. Now there's 2 different ones of these. One of them, as you can see, there's a screw hole here. The opposite side to this would have a hole here for the screw to go in and then screw into this. Now you could just print, you know, the 2 without the holes and just put those together, because as far as I know, they're perfectly symmetrical as best as I can tell. But, you know, to keep it to the instructions, I guess, or the original, I went ahead and I'm printing the 2 with the hole in it here. But if you wanted to just print all of them the same, just mirror image, obviously, to make the legs here, that would be fine. And now these do print with support. There's quite a bit of support material in here. In fact, there's just a little bit more left in here. Try to, not that it matters here, because, you know, this will never be seen again. So that's, you know, out of sight, out of mind. And maybe that's why I left it, because it's not wanting to come out. But anyways, I did leave a little bit left in here I forgot about. Right in here. Again, it's pretty easy to remove. Just go in and just kind of peel that out. Comes out pretty easily. And I'll show you why there's support material here in a second. Just don't ram that through and stab your hand, please. Well, you can do what you want. I mean, I'm not your mother. It just would hurt if you did, is all. And no, I'm not speaking from experience. So we get all of that out. And come in from this side, and we can go in right here and get rid of that as well, because that's part of the support material right in here. And like I said, so, I mean, as you can see, it comes out pretty easily. You know, you just got to work at it a little bit, but it's not too bad. Just kind of get as much out as you can here. And looks all right. I'll have to go around there with the X-Acto blade maybe, but actually just a little bit right here. All right, not too bad. And the reason why that's there is because we also have these pieces, and those drop in here, and just like that. Now there's a spring that goes in here. The spring allows you to push those in, because I'll need to clean those up a little bit tight. But on each side, the spring allows you to push that in, and the spring pushes it back. Pushes it back there. I'm not sure exactly what that's for. I think, here, hold on a second. I went ahead and got a jump start in the next section of the instructions over here. I printed this just because I needed to make sure I can make this fit with the legs. And this goes like that. Wrong side. This goes like that. So it can be down this way, or you can pull it up. So I'm thinking that with this piece, come on, get in there. Come on. It was in there once. What the heck? There it goes. So with that there, then this, it will stop it like that. And you push that down against the spring, which would allow that to come down. I think that's the intended purpose or the plan for that. So I got to clean that one up just a little bit because it's being a little bit stubborn. So I think that's what that's for. But anyways, so I went ahead and printed this just because I needed to know that it would work with this. Because my original drawing of this, it wouldn't have fit if I would have printed it. Fortunately, man, that one's really tight. Fortunately, I decided to import both of these files together into SketchUp and overlap them, and I was able to see that the way I drew this one would not have fit. I mean, it was way too small, that corner was way too far down, so I redrew that before I printed it. I'm going to reprint this because that edge got kind of messed up. So I'm going to reprint this with more support here, and I actually changed the CAD a little bit right in there. But anyway, so this is for the next video. We're not going to put this on today. So I'll put that away. So anyways, back to here. The way this works. You have these two pieces. Again, I'm not going to bond these together because I'm going to use the one with the screw, but just to show you how these pieces go together. You put a foot in here. You put a heel in here. You put the heel in there first, like that. And then the foot, and of course the round pieces and the springs, and then that piece goes over top. Of course I need all three of my hands, but you get the idea, like that. Goes like that. So that foot kind of just floats around. I'm not sure exactly why it goes up and down this way. I guess just to give it some freedom when you're posing it, maybe. I might try to put something in there to stiffen that up a bit. I'm not quite sure what I want to do with that yet, but I think that's a little bit too loose for me. The heel does move around a little bit, so a lot of posability there. Yeah, I don't really know if I like that looseness. I got to figure out how to handle that. But if you wedge it in all the way forward, because again there's a channel, goes up and down and forward and back. Right now it's wedged all the way forward, and that's pretty tight. It's pretty good there. But if you move it back and then down, I guess that's not too bad. I don't know. I gotta play around with that some more. I'm not sure what I want to do with that. But that's basically its finished boot, I guess. I don't know. Now, in the next video, step 4, they have you print a translucent blue lens that goes right here. So I am going to actually put an LED in here. I got on eBay a few weeks ago this case of LEDs, all various colors of LEDs, and they got the perfect color blue. So I'll put one of those, probably the bigger one, in there. And what I would like to do is wire it to where when this piece slides up, it turns on automatically, because with it down, it covers it. So you slide it up and the LED comes on. Of course, there'll be a translucent blue lens that goes over top of that as well. So I think that'd look pretty cool. I know I said I'm not going to do any like sanding or painting or smoothing or anything like that, but I can make an exception, put some lighting in there. So anyways, there's a leg completed. The other part of that is on the printer. It's about a 10-hour print, maybe a 9-hour print. So that should be done around 9 o'clock tonight, and I'll get the other half printed tomorrow. So this video is probably getting to be way too long. So what I'll do is I'll just end this one here, and then the next video, kind of like how this one we finished the head, then we moved on to there, to this. The next video we'll finish this and then move on to the next step. So I'll always be, at this rate, I'll always be half a step behind when I go to the next video. But anyways, hopefully you're liking this. If you have any ideas or suggestions, feel free and put it in the comments. Like I said, I'm going to post this, and then right away I'll put this stuff on Thingiverse. So if you see the video before I get a chance to post on Thingiverse and I go to Thingiverse, they're not there, just, give me till the end of the day, I guess. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking, going to stop rambling. Can't wait to see this thing when it's done. It's going to be huge. So stay tuned. And as always, thanks for watching.